Recently we've been posting a couple of videos to Facebook about just a little fun challenge we're having within our family here as far as ab rollouts go. And we're using just a simple old school ab wheel like so. We've had a couple of clients who've said that they're pretty keen on giving it a go, and a few have gone out and bought themselves some rollers. So I just wanted to quickly go through a couple of the postural safety issues involved in rolling out. Okay, now the most important thing that we need to do when we're doing our rollouts is to keep a really strong, organised core or central section of our body. What generally tends to happen is as we get further out, as we lengthen that distance between feet or knees, whatever it is that we're sitting on the ground, and where the wheel is, we tend to default into unstable positions due to A, not setting up properly, or B, not having enough strength to stabilise. Now we get around those two ways. If we don't have enough strength to stabilise, we need to grade back the movement. Now in our videos we've showed a couple of different ways to grade back, such as on the knees. There'll be another one going up soon where we're rolling out up a hill to decrease the amount of effort required. Secondly, what we might need to do is readdress our setup to get into the right position. And that's what we're going to talk about very quickly here today. So when you see people do rollouts, we usually end up defaulting into the most common position being a hyperextended lumbar spine. So as we get towards full length, or as we take those hands further away, we tend to break in our lower back and get a big kick of the bum and be really kinked through the lower portions of our spine. Now, generally, the reasons being are we're not set up correctly through the hips and through the core, or secondly, we might be missing range of motion overhead with our arms. If we're missing range of motion, if you can't comfortably bring your hands all the way up behind your head without throwing those hips back and the shoulders back, then you probably shouldn't be attempting rollouts from the start. Okay, you need to have that full range of motion in your arm first before we're even going to be able to get into the correct position, regardless of how strong your core is. So if you're missing that, probably shoot us an email and we could have a bit of a word about just some range of motion type movements that would be required to get you into that position. In regards to setting ourselves up, what we need to do is make sure that at all times we're solid from pelvis through spinal area, and then through that movement, all we do is hinge. As we roll out, we hinge at the hips and hinge back down, okay? What we don't get is opening and extension and then closing. We don't get that extension flexion through the spine. The whole open close movement of that rollout is hips, okay? So best way to go about setting ourselves up, we want to squeeze our bum, which gets our pelvis into nice alignment. Now I've spoken about this very simply before. There's some really good information to be found at this on Dr. Kelly Starrett's blog, okay, called MobilityWOD. MobilityWOD.com is the website, and his book Becoming a Supple Leopard goes into this quite in depth as well. We want to squeeze our bum, which sets our pelvis in correct alignment to our spine. We then want to draw our belly button in, our pelvic floor up, okay, and then we want to take a deep breath. Okay, now we want to maintain breath with a tension in that abdominal region. Now if you find you can hold this nice and strong, but as soon as you go into that rollout position you tend to break, what you need to do is start training disassociation between holding strong here and getting movement at the hips. Okay, so once we're into that position, bum squeezed, belly button drawn in, pelvic floor up, okay, what we want to make sure we do, thumb at belly button and sternum height, and through any movement, those two planes shouldn't break apart. You can see if I was to go into that overextended position that happens when we roll out, I get my ribs popping forward and those two planes open up, okay? If I keep my pelvis and ribs pulled closer together, I maintain nice level planes. Now, there's a big difference between standing here in a nice organized position and pulling in to a crunch position. I'm still tall, but what I'm not allowing to happen is my hips to kick back and that big curve to come into my lower spine. Okay, so if I'm having trouble, I can get into that position all right, and I've got range here, but my trouble is as soon as I start to roll out, I break into that overextended position, and we need to teach disassociation So you need to hold this position and simply start by squatting. Something like a squat works really well because we've got to flex the hips, got to tip the hips back, and you can see how I'm not breaking through the spine at all. My eyesight's head down, and then as I come back up, I extend through the hips and come tall. So at no time did any of that movement come from my spine or my lumbo-pelvic relationship. It was all pelvis tilt in relation to my legs. Okay, so all the tilting happened at the hip joints here. Again, I'm solid, tilting back, I maintain perfect position through spine, and then I drive back up. Okay? If you're doing your rollouts and you want to practice this, that's fine, but bring that range right down, okay? So get yourself set into position on the floor and roll it out maybe 20, 30 centimeters. Practice holding that position, do it next to a mirror so you can see just how that spine is remaining aligned. And if you're having any further trouble with it, feel free to shoot us an email. Thanks.